Welcome back. How are you? How was your weekend? Tell me, or is the black lady? What's good? Okay. This is a scholarly episode, okay? Put on Malcolm X's glasses. Listen. Today, we're going to talk about Dr.Carl Hart, who is controversial for a number of reasons, but we're going to talk about what we can learn from Dr. Carl Hart's effort and his decades work of research. So, this episode is in turn titled Dr. Doofensmirtz, the Neuropsychopharmacologist. Okay. So, Dr. Carl Hart is a neuropsychopharmacologist, as I just said. I like that, okay? I'll be feeling like I'm smart, like I know something when I don't really know much. But I have read some of his book. I'm not going to perpetrate like I've read the whole thing just yet. I'm almost done, though. Maybe. But Dr. Carl Hart is a zipp professor at Columbia University. And I want to say that he's the chair member or like over the whole psycho department, if I'm not mistaken. Psychology department, not psycho department, no shade. I mean, it's dealing with psycho stuff, so I feel like it's like, anyway. See how I do? You see this? This is where I might need to be in it. Anyway, he has made a lot of headlines for his book, Drug Use for Grown-Ups and Chasing Liberty in the Land of Fear. Now, Dr.H, as I'm going to call him, is a very particular type of person. Just I want you to Google that and then meet me back here. I'll be sitting and I'll be waiting of why I would consider him particular. I may, if I feel so inclined, might inform you why at the very end of this video, but we'll get there when we get there. Now, the premise of Dr. H's book is informing the reader, the audience, of how we've gotten our view of drug use and drug users. We've got it kind of, it's groupthink into thinking that it's a bad thing. And it's heavily influenced by racism, and it's weird that you think of a crackhead and you see a black person. But crack is not solely a black drug. It's a drug that white people do just as much as black people do, right? But there's the stigma that when you see a pothead or somebody who abuses weed, you think of a black person. But when you think of a stoner and a hippie and like the lightness of it, you probably think of like Woodstock if I said that. You're thinking of a white person. So it's like, why are black people considered abusers of the drug, whereas white people kind of get to like dip a toe and come back out, right? But the reason you feel that way is because you've been influenced, like I've been influenced, like everybody else has been influenced in America to believe, is that, you know, black people are less than able to break the cycle of being susceptible to drug use. And that's not true. Not in this life. I will say that Dr. H is very transparent in his book in sharing how he is able to maintain a very normal lifestyle for himself, right? He has a job, he contributes to society, he pays taxes, he's a father, he's a husband, he's a son, he's a brother. He balances and juggles a lot of different balls. The peculiar thing about Dr. H is that heroin is one of his balls that he juggles. He's a partaker in the heroin, like I would coffee. Okay, if you're cringing, I understand. Heroin, you think of like people shooting up between their toes, or like Marilyn Monroe, or you think, I know what you're thinking, but Dr. H broke that stigma in me. I'm here to try to, I can't break it in you, I'm not that smart, but what I am trying to do is show you how he's not crazy in thinking that we as a people have gotten it wrong. So the book, like I said before, is very controversial. It's very controversial. A lot of people have read that headline, read those articles, and have heard him speak, because he's a very, how do I describe Dr. H? He's a very pronounced man, right? He's very, very similar to that of LeVar Burton. Very pronounced. Like, you see this is a very, I want to say pronounced again, because I need another adjective, but he doesn't just walk into a room and gather all of the attention. He kind of someone who kind of just wanders in the back of the class and just sits down, but that doesn't mean that he's not present whatsoever. the book is dope, and today's episode is going to be focused on what we can learn from the book, and in turn, what we can learn from Dr. H. Thing number one, age does not define you being grown. Like I said before in the last video, if you peeped, remember when I told you about how you got to pay bills? Yep, Dr. H agrees. So I'm smart. That's what that is. But 21, 18, although those things allow you more access to different things like cigarettes and alcohol, which I don't know why you would get either one of those before you turn 25 and your brain's fully developed, but here we are. He argues, and he makes a very valid point of, you are not necessarily grown just because you are technically an adult. And I couldn't agree more. Number two, white people experience drugs just as much as black people experience drugs. Neither community experiences it more. I know that's a little crazy, but don't. And unfortunately, white people have put themselves in positions to help aid their family members who may have become addicts over drugs. They've gone through countless efforts. That part of the book I have gotten to and I have read well, and it was very surprising to see how crack was cool until the soldiers came back and they started doing it too. And then we started seeing laws put in place. Then we started seeing medical centers being built. Then we started seeing aid, because the last thing you want to see is a soldier doing a drug like that, you know. But these soldiers have PTSD, and unfortunately, therapy was not the option at the time. So it was interesting to learn how when white people make it a priority and they want to fix something, the lens that they go to protect their own. And unfortunately, the black people didn't have access at the time. So it looked a little lopsided, but it was still pretty balanced. Number three, society has a stigma towards black people who do drugs, and it is heavily influenced by racism. Now, I'm not saying the black people who think that black people do drugs are wrong. What I am saying is, you're not right. You're not right. Number four, he draws a very clear line between someone who partakes in drugs as coffee, as water, as food, as your favorite snack, and someone who's addicted to drugs, right? While Dr.Carl Hart partakes in heroin multiple times throughout the day, he does not consider he does not consider himself an addict, and I agree, right? Because he's still able to function, like I said earlier, with all of those different things that he juggles, and he's still able to maintain a healthy life, a relatively healthy life, because that's relative. You know, I can't tell you what's healthy and what's not for the next person, but he maintains his life. That's very different from someone who cannot function without their drug of choice. And that drug of choice is not limited to substances. Number five, the very last one, and this is something that he had to learn. I don't even think that he knew that he was learning that lesson, because he didn't phrase it like that, but I wound up seeing that he had to learn this lesson. We as humans tend to want things to fit our narrative, but when we are presented with data that goes against it, I want to encourage you to follow the data, follow the science, follow the numbers, right? When you see a spike in coronavirus, maybe not open up your country and tell people they ain't gotta wear masks. Maybe kind of buckle down on it, America. And I think believing in numbers and believing in data should be a lot more important than believing in your personal narrative. We tend to go out of our way to force things to fit into our narrative, and we're okay being asked wrong for the sake of our ego and pride. But I think even he had to learn that lesson. I won't tell you what the lesson is for him in particular, because you got to read the book. It's a very good book, I will say. It's a very heavy book. Not that it's a lot of trauma that he kicks up, but it's just well written, and you can tell that he wrote this for his peers. And unfortunately, I'm not a doctor, and I definitely have to Google what a neuropsychopharmacologist was, but I felt informed when I learned what it was. So the question I want to leave you with for today is, what topic did you consider yourself ignorant about before that you have since learned about now? And now you feel like you know what you're talking about a little bit better. Thank you. See you next Monday.